from the central place. So decentralized trials are basically we are going to the patient to conduct the study. The patients are
Okay.
not coming to the center, which is
I see.
yeah,
Okay.
where all the facilities, all the investigations, everything is happening. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, in COVID-19, it started in COVID-19 to year 2021 mostly, when patients were not able to attend in person. So the
Yes.
pharma industry and the medical devices industry, they wanted to continue with the progress. They didn't want to put a halt to it. So they devised new methods of how to conduct, study where at place where the patient is. So there's a whole gamut of things that popped up. And for example, the study personnel would go to the patient's home to take the blood samples and conduct analysis, and then increasing access to new technology actually allowed the staff to monitor the vitals from home. So, like wearable devices, they can
Mm-hmm.
monitor. So this all started a new trend of conducting studies, which is rapidly catching up, and more companies are investing in or changing their operational structure to incorporate decentralized trials in their portfolio. The reason is because it has brought more benefits. It has got some very it's cost efficient. It has I'll explain. So let's dive into the presentation. So the definition of decentralized trial is is remote or virtual trials, which
Mm-hmm.
use the technology to allow participation in clinical research without the need for patient to travel to a centralized site, such as specific hospital or a clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have been using some sort of decentralization in some aspects of the study. For example, like remote monitoring happening from sponsor perspective is part of decentralization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, there are places, it's a spectrum. Like a fully decentralized means every trial procedure is conducted virtually, and the patient never actually comes to the hospital. Whereas a fully centralized, where all procedures are done on site, and we never go to patient home, to do any of them. And then there is in between, like hybrid. Sometimes, for example, for CT scan, MRI machine,
Mm-hmm.
the part of the patients would have to come into the hospital to get that scan done, and then the less complex procedures are done, at their homes. So, for example, ECG is checked through the devices.
Mm-hmm.
So, so this is decentralization. So, what are the uh, like activities that allow us to perform, like research with patients in being in their homes? So, um, so as I told you, the technology has enabled us to do that. Otherwise, it was not possible. Now, there's an initiative. The sponsor has developed some teams, and some CROs have come up with this idea. They have this mobile clinics, with the van, and they have a coordinator, they have nursing staff, they have all the equipment to take the blood samples, and they're offering services to sponsors who need to collect the data. So they sign up with the sponsor delegates the responsibility to them,
Mm-hmm.
and those people will go and collect information and then transmit it to the coordinator on site, and then he will enter information to the sponsor, and then
Right.
so this new personnel, new like
Paradigm.
new services offered, by various CROs are allowing this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the percentage of engagement in different aspects. From site activation, 85% is remote. You know, in investigator engagement is remote. Even before decentralized trials started, this is always was remote. The physician doesn't have to go to the sponsor's office to get that done, right? They can do it on site. So they will send the contract and you sign it, and patient identification, enrollment, this also. Now, like the consent taking is usually done on site, but normally, like with the advent of e-consents, so the patients can get the consent on the device and they sign on the device, and that's how they get it.
Mhm.
Another new is the supply chain. So the medication which used to come to the site, now they have developed procedures and technology to directly supply the medication to home, to the patient's home. So they doesn't come to the site, they are transmitted directly to the patient's home.
Right.
And now this is one of the studies done in neurosciences in which there were 11 visits, and they were doing some assessments. And so the first assessment was done on site. So they did a neurological exam, ECG, lab, drug test, and then all the other ongoing procedures like pregnancy testing, vital signs, height, weight, ECG, were conducted virtually. So through the devices patients was wearing. They would give them a watch, or they would give them like a BP cuff, which can transmit information directly to sponsor. And then the last visit was done, through mobile clinics. So people will go in, patients, and then it has very good results. So there are certain, now this is showing the increased engagement of various stakeholders. Like, so pre-COVID, the engagement of the physicians with patients virtually was around 10 to 12%. You see, in the black, blue, purple. So they are like 9%, 7%. But during the COVID crisis peak, so engagement shot up to 60% because everybody was wearing masks. I've gone through this. I used to go to hospital every day, and but patients were like approached through the video calls, and they were not allowed to come to hospital. The management was forbidding patients to come on site to have them like not get infections and all that. So this engagement shot up, but then when the restrictions were removed like 6 months post crisis, the engagement went down again because patients preferred sometimes to come on site, and then some physicians prefer to come on site. But the sponsor and CRO interaction, the sponsor and site interaction, it has already been more, 30-40% even before the COVID, but it shot up 80-90% during during the COVID crisis, and it's still high, like 50 to 60% engagement is still there. There was like a concept called Zoom fatigue or screen fatigue, because people were sitting in front of the screens and they would craving for like a human interaction. So now decentralization is progressing, but I think the future is the hybrid, in which some activities are performed remotely and some activities are performed on site.
Or you can offer options. Some people
Yeah.
want to come in, some just want to do it remotely.
For some patients who are extremely sick or having rare diseases, mobility issues, elderly, they cannot come on site, then decentralized is perfect. The rare
It's making your patient base more inclusive and
Mhm.
possibly more representative of the base you want, because sicker people are automatically eliminated from a trial that needs physical traveling, right? So we're collecting diverse data from different demography, and maybe the targeted demography more so than healthy people in certain senses.
Yeah, this is called the broadened patient access. So
Mhm.
number four, because geographical constraint are reduced, a wider, more diverse group of patients can participate in
Right.
this. Yeah. Also, another advantage is it helps in high retention because they don't have to come to site, they don't have
Mhm.
to commute. Um, so they are okay. They would continue to be in the study. The
Right.
hassle is reduced. And this, I saw a presentation in like a in ACRP conference 3 4 years ago, where somebody was marketing their services on, and they were showing charts, in which the patient retention and recruitment was like 100 200% more than an average, which is the
Mhm.
biggest challenge in clinical study, like to have patients in study, find them, and then to keep them. That's the biggest challenge any study faces, even
Yeah.
in today's day and age.
Yeah.
So this decentralized trials solve the problem, but there are some challenges with it as well. The other benefits are the location patients can participate from anywhere, like
Mhm.
as you were mentioning, the inclusivity and diversity of patients. Um, you know, you they can use smartphones, wearables, and electronic tools to collect, store, and transmit data in real time.
Mhm.
Remote monitoring has already been going on, as you know, right? So,
Mhm.
so the researchers can monitor patients' vitals remotely, plus the the sponsors can also remotely monitor what's happening. Um, the patients are in their natural environment and not in a controlled clinical setting, so the data reflect real world outcomes. So this is a
Right.
big thing, real world data. You know more about it than me, right?
Mhm.
And faster patient recruitment. So accessing a broader patient pool can accelerate the recruitment process. So we have more geographical area involved, and then so the reduced cost is because we don't have to give them commuting costs to come to the hospital, and sometimes we don't even need infrastructure, like we have to don't have to have a site,
Yeah.
to so
Mhm.
because what happens is site takes 30% overhead, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah, 30% to up to even 50% overhead. Like in my place, Chen, they charge sponsors 55% overhead on top of the expenses they are doing. So you get rid of that kind of expenses. The challenges of decentralized trials. So the biggest one I see is that patients are not actually some of them don't really know how to use the technology.
Mhm.
Elderly patients, they have difficulty in so the fiddling with the instruments. They do not have you know appropriate support, and so site also needs to adjust its operations. Operational challenges that they are tuned to perform the study in a particular way. So this
Mhm.
is a radically new way of thinking, and in this one, you have to change the SOPs and the
Mhm.
procedure and policies. Involve new, have to coordinate with um, new stakeholders like the CROs who are offering these remote services. And now, if the patient comes to hospital, we have a wide array of facilities. We have physicians, different departments, like in a hospital setting. We have all the machines. So if they come with an adverse event, we can manage them more appropriately. But in the home setting, these facilities are not available. So it's sometimes that could be an issue. The
Mhm.
patient is facing an adverse event due to the medication or certain device. Then they need to be transported to the hospital to manage them. So their patients are more safe when they're coming on site. And but I am not really convinced with this one. Regulatory hurdles. So regulatory bodies are also have adjusting to the new, because we have to submit the clinical trial application, and the forms are changing, and you have to prove, because it's everything we do in research, we have to show validation. We have to show that this
Mhm.
process is tried and tested and it works. And so this might be an issue to get approval for the new way of conducting studies. And you can tell me more about the data integrity. So would that be different? Like, let's say if we collect data on site versus collecting data on the patient homes, we
I
can.
think there is a chance, like you said, technology is new to some people, it's not used right way. There's always that chance, but I think it could be mitigated with proper training and support. That should be a strong aspect of remote or decentralized trials, where we make sure that the individuals who are, um, you know, in charge of like creating the data and using the device are trained appropriately and perhaps more than once, with the chance for them to ask questions at many points. And I think that because normally in a centralized trial, it's a very trained technician who is handling the device over and over all the time. We don't have that. So a very strong training and support system should be present. And then you also need to keep a strong eye on the data itself, like always keep on the eye on the trends and watch for any anomalies and fix that right away as soon as possible. So here, the checking the integrity of the data as we are collecting is way more important than it would be for a centralized trial.
Yeah, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you for sharing that. So we talked a little bit about the location independence. So you got the idea what decentralized trial is, right? You
Mhm.
might have participated in one of these
No.
or hybrid one, and we'll just talk a little bit about each of these advantages. Um, so we just mentioned that um, the burden on participant is reduced because it offers convenience. It's done on the home settings. Um, the the we can reach trials can reach a wider range of participants, over a diverse demographics.
Mhm.
There's flexibility scheduling, so we can, depending on when they're available, the team can go and set the appointments. Um, it leads to improved participant retention because when patients are happy, they don't want to leave the study unless there is some very serious adverse events happening. Um, and we can reach, like I mentioned, broader demographics, same thing, global reach, so we can have patients in various regions. Also, it's cost efficient because we don't have to compensate patients for travel.
Mhm.
So what are the different components of digital technology that enable us to do this? So the electronic data capture systems, so the trial team can enter information directly onto the iPad or into the computer laptops in the patient's home. They can also, so patients can put the information like the questionnaires or the surveys to the devices they are given to them. They'll be wearing sensors, and they will be wearing the uh, like wearable devices to document the vital signs, activity levels, or other metrics which have been collected in the study. Then the through the iPads, the doctors can do virtual visits. Also, the coordinators can do connect patients to medical professionals through visits or conference calls. So this can happen at home.
Mhm.
Then we can also have mobile applications. So they will help them remind that the survey is to be completed. Then there are digital consent platforms. So the iPad devices or the screens we give them, we can get the informed consent digitally. I haven't seen that happening much in Canada. I don't know, it's probably, and also the decentralized trials are more like more popular in US. we don't have that many CROs, or we don't have that many organizations who offer these services in Canada. And Canada is slow to catch up on this one. So there's probably more people in US are doing this, and I haven't seen anyone doing e-consenting yet as of now. Probably hospital will be the last to catch up. It's probably happening in the private industry, the pharmaceutical medical device industry. Have you done e-consenting? Like, have you seen e-consenting happening?
No, I think it's part of the bureaucracy. Like they really have to put things through a lot of testing before they adopt a change, and that's why hospitals are really slow to adopt.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and so what is the blockchain and data security ensure trial data remains tamper-proof and patient privacy is maintained. As you mentioned, we need to have a, keep a constant eye on the data, and have a better like support personnel available to make sure that the patients are able to use the devices, and we are collecting the the accurate data from the patients, so that we don't have to do less data cleaning in the end.
Mhm,
And AI is a big thing. So as you know, there's explosion of AI devices and tools like ChatGPT and other things. So AI, I did a presentation on AI in clinical research, in which it's talking about how AI is helping different aspects of clinical studies, right?
mhm,
From preclinical, phases, phase one, two, three, four, and then post-marketing surveillance. So AI is basically collecting all the data sets and finding trends. It's cleaning up, predicting the outcomes of the studies, predicting whether the study is going to complete. Are there going to be study failures happening, or finding the gaps? And so it also helps with the accuracy of data analysis.
mhm,
Also can suggest what kind of trial design should we make uh, in order to uh, produce, get a better this thing. Um, then we have like direct to patient logistics platforms. You know, so this one I don't know anything about. I haven't seen the material or the medications shipped directly to patients. This is something very novel to me. Um, But in case of the decentralized model, it is an essential requirement. So probably the patient will fill out a request onto the program that my medication is done, I've completed, and then um, like please send me the refill or something like that.
mhm, mhm,
Then it's sent to their home. But in current today, like today's day and age, we do have like mail in medication facility available. So medications can be mailed to patient's home, probably following a same logistic platform. You can have the clinical trial medications also shipped to the patient home. Then we have remote patient monitoring platforms, and all the data is stored in the cloud. So you see how technology is heavily involved in this decentralized.
mhm,
Um, the studies done on site, can get away with having all this, and because they have integrated whole system, they can do paper collection. But in the decentralized, it is a must. So
mhm,
the initial investment to do decentralized trial is huge. So this is all takes a lot of money and changing of procedures. Then we have the option of remote monitoring. So now this is not new. People have been doing this earlier also. I don't see how it is somewhat different, but only difference I see is that um, the doctor-patient visits are conducted, virtually through the video call and stuff like that. Everything else has already been in place. Like even patients who come on the site to get these done, they also are being monitored remotely. For example, in the ECG, like patient availing devices and ECG monitor, for Holter monitoring. And then there are other like blood pressure monitoring or temperature monitoring can happen through smartwatches. So this is already being done. Uh, the only thing I see different is that the patient doctor interactions are through virtual.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's the same thing. So reduces cost to travel, accommodation, and on-site visits, enhances patient participation, is convenient. And the same challenges that data security make sure that the privacy, there are no data breaches, and patient privacy is maintained. Support issues and clinical staff and monitors need training. Now, another thing is with all these devices and technology, we need the staff that is also well trained. We will need to have like the coordinators who are good in technology, who understand how these things work. They can provide support if things go wrong, and then uh, the nursing staff, clinical staff also need uh, to adopt. And it, this is a big challenge because there was recently the system overhaul, the electronic patient EMR, electronic medical records. So we started using Epic. Are you familiar with that Epic? The
Yes,
soft,
I've heard it. Yeah.
yeah. So at UHN we changed it a year ago, and it was a huge problem because people were used to using the previous version, and they, they were complaining all the time. So they had like support staff at every station, every nursing station. There was one person standing to help, any kind of complication that happened, any kind of, because they were have put in, nurses had to put in the orders, and they were
Mhm.
go, and things were getting slowed, and there was confusion happening everywhere. So training the staff on new technology is a huge issue and need to be started early on, before, like, even before the study started. We must train everybody who's going to be using these tools and make sure that they understand what they're doing and they're able to perform the tasks even before when we have the study ongoing. So
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And that's the key ingredient in acceptance from the users is they have the appropriate support. And also the thing with like on the ground staff, clinical staff is because they are so busy, they don't have time to like um, do more like experimental stuff. They need the information in a way that's applicable right now and usable right now. If you need to search a bit or look too much or research or investigate, that's a huge drag on their time and their workflow. And
yeah,
because these actions are repeated, like a delay of 1 minute per action eventually adds up. It's multiplicative, so the overall impact is very high.
yeah, that's true. So I don't know why some people are resistant. Have you seen in your workflow, there are two kind of people. There are some are early adopters. They're happy
Yeah.
to
Hmm. Hmm.
take on a new technology. They'll be jumping with joy. Oh, we have got this thing. We like to.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And that's
Other,
how we separate our principal investigators as well, right? There are some who are early adopters, the ones who are more likely to take risks. They're usually more research minded, and
Mhm,
some are just like, tell me what to do exactly, and that's what I'll do. And they're the late adopters, and it's fine. There's different kinds of personalities, but I think in terms of people who are staff, they are more of the late letter type because they have to repeat the same action over and over, so they have to have that mindset. Um, but yeah, you're absolutely right. There are two kinds of people who are more research oriented and some are just application oriented.
okay, so you already know about risk-based monitoring. So and the sites are labeled as with high risk compared to low risk, depending on the trial parameters, the feedback we get. So there's any ongoing issues, repeatedly happening. So there are high risk sites. So they have to be monitored intensively, and monitor has to go and check on them frequently, even in person. And this is same happening with decentralized trials. So maybe in this probably it will be the monitoring of the patient. So let's say some patients we get the clean data and don't have any issues, but some patients we get constantly getting issues, technological issues, or data is not clean, it's not logical. Then we need to go and check on those patient devices and see if everything is happening.
Mhm.
Then there was like suggestion of having a members area in which people can just log in and talk to other patients
Mhm. Mhm.
on what their experience is, and then these are virtual meetings of trial participants. We can have a staff member attend, coordinate those and discuss their issues. That gives them a feeling of inclusivity, that I'm not alone, and because all this COVID have increased the level of loneliness in people. They are not much interaction, in-person interactions. Although life has become convenient, like you can get groceries at home, you can get everything at home, but you don't go out and you don't meet people. So just by doing a grocery check, you go and talk to the counter clerk, and then you have a discussion. You just feel good that you met someone and you shared a laugh or something. So
Right.
I
A
mean,
peer-to-peer feeling instead of a hierarchical feeling from doctor or medical person to a
yeah.
layman person. Yeah.
So these kind of teleconferencing will make them not feel isolated, and they can share their concerns on a regular basis. So this would be another one. I would add up, like they could have a regular support meetings by the tech staff, support staff, to see if their devices are working okay, any issues happening with that. So this was also go for smooth operations. So, and AI will help in predictive analysis, identifying potential issues, and further enhancing patient safety. So AI can alert the trial staff, clinical staff, that there are issues which are going to happen. So you must go and check on the patient.
Mhm.
So the next advantage of decentralized trial is the broader patient access. For example, we can have this ability to, like, in wider and more diverse set of patients to participate in the trials, regardless of their geographical location, physical disability, or other barriers. So physical disability is a huge one because that's the reason many eligible patients cannot participate, because they cannot come on site. So this is
Mhm.
the main reason decentralized trials were devised, that we go to them and we are able to include those patient insights.
Mhm.
Same thing we talked about earlier: location independence, flexible scheduling depending on their, what time they're available, and digital engagement. Then we have faster recruitment, longer retention periods, diverse participation, same thing. Um, so there is one issue, that people will be culturally different, right? So it will be, we have to, because all these studies, we have to make sure that cultural and linguistic barriers are taken care of. So because the trials become accessible geographically, we need to understand how patient priorities change with their cultural preferences.
Mhm.
So, but I think when we conduct studies in, like, in one section, we conduct studies in, like, in US, and we conduct in Canada. So we get approval from different regulatory agencies. We conduct in Mexico, we have approval for different agencies, and then we need to employ like the CRO teams from those countries who are trained in their cultural issues, like, so cultural appropriate. Even we have study conducted in 10 different countries. We have teams, in each of these countries who are culture appropriate, who can understand the local
Absolutely.
language,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
they collect data, we can resolve issues. They know what the patient preferences are, And ideally, this is done like, on-site studies are done like that. So in remote, like in decentralized trials, we can have a headquarter based in each of these countries in which we have people, our staff, you know.
Mhm.
So this will help them overcome this barrier.
Yeah, I face this issue because we're working with a very diverse countries, including like Asia Pacific, like Japan, Korea. So their cultures, Indonesia, their culture is so different from North American culture that you really have to take time to have all your information culturally sensitive and relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the protocol also are modified as per the geographical location. There are
Right.
certain one
Mm-hmm.
protocol is applicable, then there's an amendment made for that country, and that
Mm-hmm.
amendment is applicable to that country.
Right.
And then we include all the important points on what to include or what to exclude from there.
One thing I don't see here, or maybe you have it later, is the role of social media in patient recruitment. I've
Mhm.
seen that go up significantly in the past few years. And I think that has also brought some benefits that you can target like different areas, different demographics through social media and ensure diversity in your recruitment, which before was not possible as much. And again, yeah, you're right. When you're doing social media based recruitment, you are excluding some people who are not tech savvy. Um, but I mean, as more and more time passes, we have less and less people like that who at least don't have one form of social media. Like even older people at least have one thing to stay in touch with their family members and younger members, right? So that I would say I wonder sometimes what's the impact of that kind of recruitment, because these are people who are not necessarily looking to get recruited, but something pops up in their feed and then they're interested.
That's a very valid point. Um, I did a presentation on patient recruitment and retention.
Hmm.
So I shared a YouTube video in which a company who like gets patients for phase 1 studies
Hmm.
were posting an ad, in which like you will come here, you stay with us, you'll play games, we'll give you healthy meals twice a day, and then you can get enrolled in the studies as per your eligibility. And that was a very lucrative ad. And you get paid for your participation. So these kind of ads are happening in social media, and there is a whole um like a whole different approach. There is a whole set of training and processes in place on SOPs on place on how to actually advertise in social media.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it has a very specialized field on advertising in social media, and
be
there
ethical and has to be
there
free. Yeah,
there are
and let the
agencies.
participant know how their data will be used, and it
Yeah.
has to tell them they can drop anytime. Yeah, yeah.
So there are agencies who are specializing in those, who just their sole job is to advertise on these clinical studies in social media for the company.
Mhm.
And
How does this impact like the concept of decentralized trials? Like,
I haven't got it linked to it, but yeah, I mean that's a good question. Like, how do you let your patients know? And I think the best way to let them know is through the through the social media. But what happens is all these patients, what do you think is a common factor linking them to the study, in your opinion?
technology, ability to
Not
use
really. In any geographical location, all these patients are basically are like attending um,
the internet.
same investigators, and they are under the care of the same doctor.
Okay. Hmm.
So let's talk about like a restricted geographical area, like a city, same
Hmm.
city, or in the surrounding, like say GTA, Greater Toronto area. So we
Hmm.
have specialist who is working in a hospital and he has patients spread over all the different locations. Like some is 50 miles away, some is 100 miles away. People come all from, because the tertiary level hospital with the specialist, they have a very wide catchment area. So all these people are connected to to the study through the common person, the doctor who is taking care of them. And um, so so instead of them coming on site because of physical inability, we do decentralized trial for them. But the concept of having like patients, different patients, so who are never seen by the physician, who is in charge of that decentralized trial. So there is a principal investigator in charge of the decentralized trial in that area. That person needs to know who is coming on board in the study. So they need to have their patient data being transferred from the physician because they need to assess eligibility and check, if the patient is okay or not. So that becomes trickier. But social media, yes, we can participate. And in the social media messages, we can say that please report to your local doctor for the study. So if there is a local doctor in that area conducting that study, then they can go and get enrolled. It is logistically easier. It's not a nightmare. And one person cannot handle a huge geography. One person cannot handle like 3 cities or 4 cities. You know, one PI cannot handle patients coming from 5 different cities. So it's too much of work. So so there are like PIs and co-PIs in different locations who do decentralized trials on patients in their database, and then they all communicate to the sponsor, and the sponsor keeps track of what's happening at each PI level, and then you provide them support. So this is more logistically feasible. It's not a nightmare. And so social media will help them direct them to who the doctor they should be going to. So yeah, I mean, that's how I see it. I haven't seen a lot of these, or as I mentioned, there's a center in the city which is doing phase 1 studies, and all the patients come there. Like there was an ad which I saw on YouTube. So patients come there on site, they stay there for 2-3 days, and then this is not decentralized. This is like on-site participation. For example, in phase 1 studies, you need the patients to be on site because you have to collect PK samples and every 20 minutes, and people cannot actually, staff cannot go there, every 1 hour, 2 hours to collect samples. So those kind of studies, phase 1 studies is not gonna be happening in decentralized manner. Phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 studies can be done in decentralized manner. Does it give some insight into how this might work?
Yeah.
Yeah. So social media, and I don't use much social media. I only use YouTube. I'm not a Facebook fan. I haven't seen any ads of any of these. In US channels, we see a lot of medication ads. And have you seen any ads in Facebook of clinical studies?
Yeah, I think more on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, I have seen, and I actually participated in one UBC study. It was fully remote based on a fitness app. And I guess it's not a clinical as in like a medication, so it has less regulations and restrictions, but still the whole process was quite fascinating for me that I could participate in a whole trial without having ever met anybody in person.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, so this is also feasible then. Like in which the studies in which you do the risk is low, low
Yeah,
risk.
exactly. That's why.
You can have a wider geographic area. If the risk is high, or in which a patient is actually getting treated for some condition, then the
That's hard.
has to know who is dealing with. So
Yeah, for sure.
um so so in the future trends is like, we can have a hybrid model. We have decentralized and centralized methods, and They can also go globally, so increases the geographic area of patient access. So retention, we all talked a little bit about it. You know, it's the ability of to keep the patients engaged in a clinical trial. So this is decentralized trial offer the benefits by reducing travel burden, by being flexible, by through technology, by giving tailored reminders,
Mhm.
interactive platforms, the comfort and privacy of their home. They can have support, technical support. The challenges we mentioned earlier is like proper training is required, and all the interface has to be user friendly. Because if it's complicated, then especially elderly patients or who are technology averse, they're not gonna be using that. They
Yeah.
might feel disconnected. Uh, so we can have those virtual meetings, teleconferences with the support staff, with the clinical staff and the doctors and with other patients to make sure they are, not feeling disconnected. Then technological glitches. So there should be a support helpline available, which goes through with which you can call dedicated support helpline for their technical issues.
Mhm. Mhm.
So user experience is the key thing. To engage, participant attention, is all technology related. Then regular check-ins, building communities, and encouraging participant feedback to make sure their trial experience is good. Um, so initial investment is high to have all this technology, incorporated into the clinical trial. But the overall long-term benefits are huge because you you have less failed trials, you have less of the sites that close out due to inadequate enrollment. So
Mhm.
that you invest in those sites and then you close them down because you didn't meet the required number of participants, and the patient drop out, so failed trials and all those things, they go down. And so this is really, I see this is really the future of and now things are becoming so difficult, all these um, natural disasters happening, the new viruses are coming because the environment is changing, the global, like there are a lot of crises happening,
Yeah.
that so these crises in the world, they make it difficult for people to go out. I don't go out as much as I used to 3 years ago. I used to be out on the streets on the weekend, every single weekend. I never used to sit at home. I used to attend all these um festivals happening in Toronto and all those places to see and go. Now I this year I haven't been, not even like 10 weekends I've gone out. I don't feel like, it's like I feel so much of stress out there. There's also
Mhm.
much of uncertainty. You don't know, what kind of virus you're gonna bring back home, what kind of infection you're gonna bring back home, and
Yeah.
um,
And
it's
it's also coupled by improvement in technology. That's also a key factor.
yeah,
Like two key factors: improvement in internet services and availability and coverage has increased a lot, especially during COVID. The remote connection capabilities have increased a lot, and um, wearable devices, their reliability, and portable devices, their reliability and their data integrity has been actively researched and improved upon. And I think that is one key aspect that enables decentralized trials as well. I work in a project where we're involved in sleep monitoring, and it's amazing how advanced just these wearable devices are now in terms of their reliability. It's almost same as the like they're not just sleep monitoring, like body composition and sleep. So they are comparable to a DEXA machine and to a polysomnogram machine. So just from these wearable devices, and that's really what the companies are benchmarking their wearable devices to. So they're becoming way more and more reliable. And as we progress further and further, I suspect it's going to also seep into blood composition and, you know, other internal information, and that's going to be the key growth that we need in terms of being able to have a proper decentralized trial. It's like sometimes you have a great concept, but the technology is not there. You cannot implement. But now I think the technologies, that's one good thing that came out of COVID is people really put a lot of emphasis on these remote devices and connectivities that is actually now enabling and helping us in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. For example, these kind of meetings were not possible previously. Like Zoom came out
Exactly.
during COVID, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had stuff before like Skype and stuff, but the widespread acceptance of it was still very low. Now it's very normal to do something like this, but before COVID, it was still more honorable or respectable to meet in person, even though it's like, you know, more you're burning more fossil fuel, but it's like if you're doing over Zoom, it's considered less, but now it's the norm. Just like wearing a mask now is kind of norm. Like before COVID, it would be like, oh, are you a weirdo wearing masks, you know? So these are kind of things that really change in our minds that it's acceptable now, socially acceptable, which is enabling a lot of this stuff to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's pretty much it for today's presentation. So I tried to make it, I was short on time, so I couldn't finish all these points. So we got up to here. Then you know about the real world data and fast patient recruitment. So it's probably just repetition of what we just talked earlier, that because the data is collected in the patient home setting, so it's, you know, it's in natural environment. It's not like in the ultra control settings. And patient recruitment is faster because of the digital technology. They don't have to come and all those things. So this is basically the idea of decentralized trial, is that you bring the study to the patient, not the patient to the study. So that's the idea, and it's catching up. People still don't know what exactly it is. They're still fuzzy about, and companies are working to include that. But as you know, with new technology, there are always, you know, people who rebel, you know, who just so the early adopters and the other ones are the ones who rebel. So once they see the benefit and, you know, things happening, and we have, like as you mentioned, technology is improving and it's coming in place, and when it's reach a certain critical threshold, then I think many or more companies will adopt whenever they can.
Right. Well, thank you very much. This was a great discussion. I didn't know much about decentralized trials, but it's a very important concept. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for attending, and please do keep coming back. And we have more presentations coming up. The next one I'm hosting is on the failures of clinical research, historical failures. So we all get to learn what went wrong and what we should avoid doing in our current studies.
Absolutely. Fair.
Okay, nice to meet you, Faye. So see you next time. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.